Good afternoon. My name is Donovan Carter. I am here with the Samuel Proctor Oral History exam from the University of Florida in Washington, D.C. today. Today is August 28th, 2021, and I'm here with
Deanna Sullivan.
Sam Sullivan.
Josh Sianez.
Okay. And so the Sullivans, tell me why you're here today.
We are here today to talk about my son, David. He was murdered on August 19, 2019 in the city of Fullerton by the Buena Park Police Department. He was 19 years old. He was driving a vehicle. He was pulled over in a traffic stop, and he was driving a vehicle that did not belong to him. He was cooperative. He didn't have a gun. He didn't have a weapon. Officer Bobby Colin and Jennifer Tran murdered David. He was completely cooperative. When they ran the plates, they found that the car was reported stolen, and they went back to the vehicle that he was driving. They didn't even try talking to him. They didn't communicate with each other that they had a plan, what they were going to do. They didn't even try talking. They didn't use their words. They didn't say anything. One of them pulled open the door. The other started grabbing at him and pulling him out of the car. And David starts the vehicle, and he backs up. He tries to back up. He was 19. He had his permit. He knew how to drive, but, he just had his permit, When he backed up, he hit a tree and a post, and the car was disabled. You're yelling at him to get out of the car. He gets out of the car. He says, "Fuck you" to them, and they just started shooting. And they're shooting towards him and the vehicle and oncoming traffic. He starts running, and they just keep shooting. Shot him 7 times. Some of them in the back. Again, they didn't try less than lethal. They didn't try anything else that they had. They just started shooting, and they had no plan. They didn't even communicate with each other, the 2 cops. They were reckless. They escalated a situation where they could have de-escalated it. That day, if they had done their jobs and followed their protocol, they could have made a difference. They could have changed something. They could have talked to David. They could have, whatever it was that David was going through, but they didn't, because they know they have qualified immunity. They know they are insulated by qualified immunity. They know that they also have this other group. It's called Lexapol, that it's a private for-profit company that does privatization of police policy, and they sell policy for 95% of the police stations and prisons or correctional facilities in California, and I believe up to 35 across the United States. And again, 35 states across the United States. And again, it's called Lexapol, and it's a for-profit private company that does privatization of police policy. And the institutions that subscribe to their policy manuals renew every year, and again, it's a for-profit company. So this further insulates these cops when they have the qualified immunity. They have the coaching and the protection of Lexapol's police policy. David should be here. David should be here. He should be living his life, and he should be partaking in things that a now 21-year-old would do. But instead, he was murdered. He was robbed. He was robbed of his life. And on his death certificate, it says homicide. It's murder. But these cops, Colin and Tran, they are the murderers, and they are not being held responsible. They just, again, like every other district attorney, gives this rubber stamp of approval that it was within policy, and these cops, they get away literally with murder. So these district attorneys, they have way too much power. They have way too much power. Nobody is holding them accountable, and they are not holding their chief of police accountable, and they are not holding their officers accountable. And we need more than just voting in these district attorneys. They need oversight. And the Supreme Court needs to get rid of qualified immunity, because that is an old policy that does not, it was wrong in the beginning and it's wrong now, and it just doesn't work anymore.
David was 19 when he was killed on August 19th, 2019. And he was on the verge of a lot of things. And 19 is a weird number to me now, because it's legally an adult, but it's like still a teenager. And he was such a great kid. He was a year and a half younger than me, but he was taller than me. I felt like I wanted to... He deserved better. You know, he should be here. And that's just what I keep thinking in my head over and over again. Like, he should still be here. If someone stole a car, you don't get a death sentence for that. If someone none of these things that he did wrong are punishable by death, legally. And yet, his punishment was death, and that's legal somehow. And it doesn't make any sense to me. The police officers who killed him were not even supposed to be together. Bobby Colon is a motorcycle cop in Buena Park, California, and Officer Jennifer Tran is
Bobby Colon is a motorcycle traffic cop. Jennifer Tran is a car, commercial, like a big rig traffic cop. So they work two different beats. One of them was supposed to, the motorcycle cop, Colon, he was supposed to be picking up his motorcycle. So he asked Jennifer Tran to come off of her duties and come and pick him up, which sounds real shady. You know, he's at the police station, she's out in the field. So she comes all the way back, picks him up. They're supposed to be going in one direction to pick up his vehicle. They went in the complete opposite direction in a whole other city, because they work for Buena Park Police Department, and where they pulled David over was the city of Fullerton. So they were behind an airport in a very kind of secluded area, and they shouldn't have been over there. It's very shady. Whether he was trying to get with her or mentor her, they both were not in the right frame of mind to be doing what their duties of pulling David over, because he either went into hero mode, I'm going to save you, or let me show you how this is done. Either way, they were not in the right frame of mind to be doing what they were doing, and they were completely out of their city doing it. And these two cops, they just had no business even pulling David over. They should have followed their policy once they found out the vehicle was stolen and called for backup. They did not. They rushed him, and they escalated a very calm, peaceful situation. And you see in the body cam that they showed us that David panics. In the very first body cam they showed us, it was completely edited. And then the actual one that our lawyer showed us, it was the real body cam. So it's just a very strange series of events. The chief of police for the city of Buena Park happens to be a relative of ours, a very distant relative. And one of my brothers reached out to him, and he told my brother, or it was my son, I can't remember, that it's probably better not to talk about this too much because it would bring embarrassment to the family, the Sianez family. So through all of this, we have lost connections with family because I think people want to believe in cops. Cops have this huge budget and they try to make themselves so present in the schools, in the libraries, everywhere. Like, we need them.
Grocery stores now.
In the grocery stores. That's horrible. Like, we need them. They're like shoving it down our throat, like saying, you need us. And by showing their presence, we don't need them. And we've seen time and time again, they escalate situations. They put people in, they cause anxiety. All the funding that they have, it could go to better services for our communities, for our children, for the people who are houseless, for people who need a food, for childcare. There's so much we could do with the bloated budget that they have that could serve the community, not just further trying to make them feel like, okay, we need you, we need these cops, because we don't need them. We don't need them in our grocery stores. We don't need them in our schools. We didn't have them in our schools, and now they're in all the schools. When I was growing up, you didn't see a cop at school. There was no need for them, and now they're trying to make it like again, once again, like we really need them. We don't. We do not.
David was always a really smart kid. I remember one summer he got really into the Black Panther Party, and he was trying to educate us about it. And it was 2016. And I just remember being like, I'm pretty sure that's like a really radical thing, David. Like, I don't know about that. And he was like, no, they were amazing. And they did this and this and this and this. And he was like telling me all about it. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that they did that. Or that sounds pretty cool. And like, he was just so ahead of his time in terms of like everything. I feel like he would have been such an asset to this revolution. And it makes me so mad that he was stolen before it could really start.
I know I'm kind of jumping around, and I'm sorry. One of the things that it's hard for me to think about is after they shot David, after they murdered him, they left him there. They didn't try to give him medical attention. And they left him there. And I'm not really even sure how long they left him there for. And then they tried to turn, when we found out, then all of a sudden the representatives from the district attorney's office is coming to us to get information, like acting like they're going to help us, that they're here to help you. But what they're doing is they're gathering information so they can later use it against him and us in any way possible. So they murder him, and then they're gonna tear his name apart, and they're going to tear him apart, and they're going to tear our family apart and try to justify their actions.
What I don't understand is, why is David on trial? He's gone. He paid for these relatively small crimes with his life. And the thing is, he'd never bucked up before. Like, he'd never done anything wrong, pretty much. Like, in school, he would always, follow the rules and do everything right. He would try so hard to do everything right. And I think it got to him. And I would, a normal teenager. I never had to experience any of the consequences of the things that I did. But the one time that he goes out on an impulse, he gets killed for it because he was tall, because he looked intimidating, and he didn't deserve that.
We'll wrap it up.
So I guess last question to kind of wrap it up. What do you want the world to know about David? What do you want people to know about David?
How kind he was and how funny he was. He did a lot of, he was really funny. He would always be making jokes. He did like little bits. He was in marching band, and he played the clarinet, and he did drumline. He loved music. He played the guitar. A lot of these instruments he learned how to play them by himself just because he was like, I want to learn this. And he went to Germany. He loved to travel. He loved social justice, and he would talk about, like a social revolution. He would like teach himself all of these really intense, like critical race theory, basically, in like middle school and high school.
David is sweet and kind and loving. And he had a really big heart. He was very quiet, very tall. And sometimes I don't think he ever looked intimidating, because he's my child. But he just had a huge heart and a lot of love, and he really cared deeply. He might not have said it, it might not have seemed like it, but it was definitely there in his actions and little cards and little, just little stuff. Very sweet, and he really, really loved his family, and we really loved David. He had plans, and we all had plans with him. And I think this world is a much worse place than it was without him. He should be here.
Thank you. Justice for David.